Welcome to Mallett and Michelle on Dripping Springs, hosted by me, Michelle Lewis, and Steve Mallett, Mr. Chilly Willy Penguin Bones, always cold.
Well, that's true. And Michelle Lewis, who's the only person in the world that says yummy when she makes top ramen noodles in the microwave.
Yummy.
Well, we've had rolling out our second, third week of podcasts and had a pretty good response on the first couple. And some people asked us, why a podcast?
Or what is a podcast?
Or what is a podcast? Yeah, actually, we have some older friends that shouldn't have said that, but that didn't even know what a podcast was until we started trying to introduce them to it.
Yeah, I had to explain it to my own husband a little bit. Even though I listen to podcasts, I'm not a regular podcast listener, even though I...
What do you like to listen to?
So downloaded, I have Max Lucado. I have The Office Ladies. I have... I think it's called The Judgy Girls, which is basically a Bravo celebrity trash reality show. But then I'm a bouncer arounder, and I like Joe Rogan. I listen to him.
Joe Rogan. I listen to Crystal and Sagar.
I've listened to a lot more lately because I've been trying to learn their interview styles. Honestly, not just trying to learn this by the seat of my pants. And I've learned a lot, I think. And I've listened to some really bad podcasts, and I've listened to some really good ones. One of my favorite is Steve Martin and Martin Short, Murders in the Building. It's not a real
That's
podcast.
That's not a podcast, but yeah.
It is. I mean, that show was hilarious if you haven't seen that show.
You know what? I did a lot of research too when we first started thinking about a podcast. And what I learned is there's no magic formula for a podcast. As long as what you put out there is interesting and informative to people, they'll listen.
I think so. I had to tell Todd, I said, when I was a kid, I grew up listening to AM radio because if I was with my dad in the car, he always had Rush on the car. So I've listened to that. So I said, in my understanding of a podcast is it's AM radio on steroids. So, at 12 o'clock, I knew that I could turn it on and Rush would always be on.
And you can listen whenever you want.
But now I can pick the subject, the person, I can fast forward, I can rewind, I can save it for tomorrow, which, back in the day, AM radio, you would listen and it would be gone. And I'm not new to the broadcasting world. I kind of, in my former life, I kind of was worked real closely with Coke FM and Clear Channel Radio. And so, but, it's still intimidating. And I think, just sitting here with you, it's like having a conversation with the person I see.
Just like we do in the office almost every day.
Exactly.
Talking about what's happening in the world. And and people that don't know, we're on all the platforms now. You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, and there's a couple other ones, iHeart. You can also listen to us directly on our website. There's a link there for it too.
And have patience with us on our social media. So if you have a 16-year-old teenager that wants to help us out with social media.
Yeah, I know. I feel like I get to know a little bit about social media, and I'm like, I'm starting to figure this out, and then they change it.
Yeah, well, I'm pretty active on social media. You are as well. But when you're trying to promote something like a podcast, there's a whole different genre, a whole different avenue that you have to take to promote. And now you're becoming a business page versus a personal page, and the algorithms change back and forth. We do have 2 interns from Dripping Springs High School, Carter and Lana, that are helping us out, which Carter has been great. He helped set up our studio.
He did.
Our soundproofing, and Judy, our office manager, is going to kill us when we take all this down with the
well, that's all right.
Staples.
We won't tell her. But so
don't tell her.
So why a podcast? I had struggled with talking about social media. I've been kind of struggling. How do you stand out in social media anymore if you're not a 25-year-old, good-looking,
social media influencer?
Young person? It's hard to stand out on social media. And we started thinking we have these conversations every day, and our insight, and we know all these really interesting people in Dripping Springs. And we thought, I think people would like to listen in on our conversations. We're going to have a guest on later. A really good friend of mine, Brandon Lopez, is going to come in and talk to us about Snowmaggedon and his point of view on that.
And he's a local business owner,
local business owner of Sarasota. And so, we have these connections and these untold stories. And I think there's a lot of people in Dripping Springs. If you sat down over at Pigpen Barbecue and had a little bit of barbecue and talked to them, you'd be like, man, they are fascinating. Mm-hmm. And so we want to get those people on here and talk to them and get their point of view.
There's so many new residents in this town too. I don't really think they understand the history, and everybody came from somewhere here in Dripping Springs. There were 3 original families that came here, and unless you are a direct descendant of them, everybody came from somewhere. Now, some longer than others. And I just think, gosh, what happened to respect? For your neighbor and
well, and that's part of what we want to do, right? We were talking this morning about when I moved here in 2003. I was looking for property and drive along the back roads. And one morning I was driving along in a rental car, and this guy went by in a truck going the other way, and he waved at me. And I was like, I was from California. I'd been here like a day and a half, but he waved at me. And my first thought was, I left my coffee cup sitting on top of the car, because I was like, why would that guy be waving at me? He's like, but that's when we first moved here. That's a Texas thing. It has mostly died. I think that's sad. When you drive along Creek Road, you pass somebody now, they don't wave. It became it was the wave, and then it was the one finger wave. Your hands on top of the wheel, and you just raise one finger, and now there's nothing. And I'd love to get back to that.
Did you wave at the lady this morning that drove off with the gas pump still attached to her car?
Yeah. Well, that was crazy. I was at the Valero, and this woman in I'll just say Subaru, a newer model Subaru, pumped their gas, got in their car, left the hose sticking in the gas tank, and drove off. And the thing was just, it breaks in half, and it was just rattling along the side of the car. And they pulled up to the stop sign to leave, and it was just flapping around and zoomed off, pulled out onto 290, and off they went. And
just a normal day.
I guess so. Yeah.
When I first started working with you, gosh, 6-7 years ago.
A long time ago.
Sorry. You're never getting rid of me now. I remember we had a listing, and somebody called the number on the sign because there was loose goats?
That's right.
What
they
was
were
it?
Donkeys.
Donkeys, that's right.
That's
right.
In Henley.
Yeah, there were loose donkeys.
Yeah, there was somebody's donkeys had gotten out, and they called me because my sign was out front of the listing and said, hey, your donkeys got out. So we put them back inside the fence, and they didn't belong to the property. So we had to go over there. The property was actually vacant, and figure out who these donkeys belonged to and have somebody come pick them up.
I remember, I think we had been here in Dripping Springs 3 or 4 years, and we were out of town. And I got a call from my neighbor saying that there were cows sitting in our front yard eating all of our grass. This was in High Point. Oh. So where our house was, High Point kind of ended.
Was this serious, or was this a joke?
It was serious. Yeah,
oh
I guess some cows had gotten out, and they were just having a good old time in our yard.
In High Point.
Yeah, I mean,
that's crazy.
But think about how
I bet you cows probably thought they died and gone to heaven. They got in High Point. All that
Zoysia.
all that green grass.
It's so delicious.
Yeah, I was driving down Darden Hill Road 5 or 6 years ago, and there was a cow. You know that low water crossing when you go to the end of Sawyer Ranch and turn right to go back out towards 150. That real low water crossing. There was a cow just standing, a big cow too, standing right in the middle of the road. And I thought, and it was black, and I was thinking, man, if this was the middle of the night and that thing was standing in the middle of the road, somebody could have came up and just creamed that thing. But.
We talk about, we're going to talk to Brandon about Snowmaggedon, but I think a lot of newer residents here don't really understand also Texas and the flash flood, and that little area right there. Boy, remember the year that the pumpkins were floating down 290, and the flooding is crazy.
A lot of people when they first move here don't realize how much rain we can get in a short period of time and how these creeks fill up. So that's actually a good public service that you provided, that if you just moved here from California and we get 10 inches of rain in 24 hours, please don't drive across any of those creeks. They will have a ton of water in them.
So we pick a lot on Californians, don't we?
There's just so many of them moving here. I'm not really picking on them. I Actually, my sister who lives in California, she emailed me and she said, I loved your first podcast. It was so great, but you spent so much time bagging on California. And I just want to remind you, your 3 kids were born here, and I feel bad. It is a beautiful state.
My
it's
husband
a great
was
state.
born there in Mountain
that's
View.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
But he's lived in Texas, I think, 55 years now.
Yeah,
like
he's a true Texan.
He's
now.
a Texan.
But yeah, I mean, I hate that we were so down on California because it is a beautiful state, but politically, it's just being decimated. It's
from the inside.
Destroyed, decimated.
Mm-hmm.
It's they're talking about even raising the taxes even more, and people have been leaving for years because of the taxes that they take from them already. So, and now they're talking about allowing people that are not U.S. citizens to vote.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So it's the politics. It's not the state.
My son and daughter-in-law live there. My son Tate, he's stationed in San Francisco.
That's right.
And it's been eye-opening for him being a little, small town Dripping Springs boy. I mean, he's lived in New Orleans with the Coast Guard. He's lived in Puerto Rico. Mm-hmm. That was a whole new world. But San Francisco, luckily for him, his wife's family is close by in Napa, so they go there a lot. But
the area surrounding San Francisco is still very pretty.
Oh, they go to Tahoe. They went to Tahoe last weekend. They're going to Tahoe this weekend. So they have, the hiking abilities and the landscape is just amazing.
Yeah, and then you've got national parks and state parks. But we stayed a couple years ago, Gracie, Holly, and I stayed downtown San Francisco, and it was terrible.
Tate has to take a taser now to go walk the dog.
That's crazy.
So,
but so Donna, we love you, and I'm sorry we bagged on California, but it's not the state itself, and the people are wonderful. It's the politics that's killing it. And it's a shame because it has been a great place.
And don't move here to Dripping Springs to try to turn what you ran away from.
Yeah, that's right.
That's why we love this area. We love the hill country. We love the small town life. And people, just even having the
never start a sentence with the way we did it in California.
Yeah, no.
That's just take that out of your lexicon. You just can't ever say that.
But also, if you are a Dripping Springer, right? Don't bag on the people that are here. Because like I said, we all came from somewhere. Mm-hmm. And they may be from California or New York or Chicago.
That's funny. Don't bag on the people that are here, and that's what we've been doing. But we welcome everybody here. We just want you to love what we love about Dripping Springs and not try and make it into something that it's not.
What is it that you love about Dripping Springs? And I'll tell you you tell me what you love when you first moved here, and I'll tell you what I loved.
There was a couple things. I love this sense of community where, when HEB first opened, this, you had to plan for an hour to go to HEB because you were going to see 10 people that you knew and you were going to catch up with them. Yeah. Which was great. But it actually got to the point where sometimes if you were in a hurry, you actually went to a different HEB. But this sense of community where people and you're plugged in. I love that it was out here on its own, out in the hill country, and you could just a short little ways outside of Dripping Springs be on these little back country, beautiful country roads with creeks and streams and hill country views. But if you wanted to go on a night on the town or do something, fancy dinner, you could just run into Austin and do that. But it was a sense of community. What about you? That was
your perspective coming from out of state. My perspective was living in Austin, Shady Hollow, having 3 kids. My oldest was dyslexic, and I felt like the Austin school district really wasn't helping him. School district was big. And so we came out here. I wanted something a little bit smaller classrooms, a little bit more centered, focused for him. And went to, I think it was the first year, well, he was at Dripping Springs Middle School. My other 2 were at Rooster Springs still. And Logan got involved with Mary Scott was the dyslexic teacher there.
I remember Mary.
And just really turned things around for him and helped him with his learning styles. And that's really why we came. And, people were like, oh, well, we sold our house in one day in Austin because of where we were. We were Baranoff, Bailey, Bowie School District. Mm. But being out here in Dripping Springs, we're like, why are you moving out there to Dripping Springs? There's like nothing out there. And there wasn't. There wasn't an HEB. There wasn't a Home Depot. We've been
No
out here,
McDonald's,
16
no
years?
Whataburger.
There was Dairy
When I
Queen.
moved here, there was one restaurant. It was not that good.
Well, I think it has, all of my kids have graduated from here, and Logan is now in neuroscience, and I think it has really done him good. Now, the schools have changed, and especially with the last 2 years. I cannot even imagine raising kids right now during COVID, like schools. And,
I
and
know.
It would be so hard. So bless those mamas that are having to do this. And luckily right now the kids are back in school, but those that had to homeschool your children.
Yeah, I thought about that a lot last year, that, trying to juggle a business and, take care of stuff at home, and then having to educate your kids and make sure that they're paying attention to these Zoom meetings, which, God, I just almost hope I never have to do another Zoom meeting ever again.
I felt that the community really kind of came together and supporting the teachers. And I mean, there were some hiccups at the school board meetings and things like that, some ugly things that happened. But I remember when we first moved here, it was right after the mold incident at the elementary school. So Logan, all those kids he went to school with. So, a lot of people that don't know. So
the mold incident, tell people what that was.
What I understand about the mold incident was the school, Drippin Springs.
No, it was Drippin GS Elementary on Rancho
Drippin
12.
Springs Elementary had mold. They needed it remediated. And
this was like 2000 and 2001?
Let me think. It would have been kindergarten, first grade for Logan, 4 or 5.
So early 2000s.
Yeah, early 2000s. And these kids were displaced, and the churches took them in. So we had schools that weren't schools.
The community really pulled together to make that happen.
That is why
I think that was part of the what I felt when I first came here in 2003, because we talked to the principal over at elementary school, because that's where my kids were all going to go, and just loved that sense of community, that sense that they were going to be in a place where they were going to just teach them reading, writing, and arithmetic, and not indoctrinate them with a bunch of other useless stuff. My kids, 2 of my kids graduated from DS High School, and did great. Gracie ended up graduating from a charter school, but it's been a great community. I've loved living here. I actually don't think I ever want to live anywhere else.
That's the way I am right now. We could move, and I don't want to. I love where we are. I love the people. I've met some wonderful lifelong friends, and I like coming to work every day and harassing you.
And you do that very well.
Thank you very much.
But anyway, in a nutshell, that's sort of why we started the podcast, was because we just love this community, and we want people to feel that sense of community again. And I think they'll get that when they get to know their neighbors a little more intimately than just passing them at the mailbox or at the stop sign.
And the people that are listening, we are so appreciative that you are supporting Steve and I on this endeavor, and we really appreciate it from the bottom of our heart. And we're always looking for feedback.
Please. Yeah, we actually, this is our first time go around with this. So if you think of something that you think we could do better, we have thick skin. We'd love to hear it.
Well, Steve has to have thick skin because
I work with you.
But hey, I was going to say, fun fact? You want to know a fun fact? Did you know that Betty White was older than sliced bread?
Older than sliced bread?
Yeah, they invented the bread slicing machine in 1928, and Betty White was born in 1922.
Oh, geez. Yeah, I really liked her. It's a shame.
Talked about days gone by. There just aren't many actresses, the Betty Whites of the world. Like, who do you see now as a Betty White that takes her place? I don't see that.
No, I don't. I don't think there's anybody
This world
out
is
there
changing
like
fast.
It really is. But
I don't know.
Well, we're going to take a little break, and we're going to come back, and Brandon's going to come in and talk to us about Snowmaggedon. So we'll see you in a second.
This show is brought to you in part by the Mallett Integrity Team, serving Drippin Springs, Austin, and the surrounding areas of Central Texas since 2004. When you need the best real estate advice and service, give them a call at 512-829-2062 or email them at mallettintegrityteam.com.
Well, hey, Brandon. Thanks for coming in, man.
Hi. How you doing?
How's it going?
It's going great.
All right. Don't be nervous. We're going to have fun.
Yeah, all right. Well, let's have some fun. I'm always down for that.
Well, when did you and Soraya move to Dripping Springs?
Well, I think it's let me guess here. What are we? 2022. So
You forgot already?
yes, it's just there's no sense. It's not like a prison sentence. Like if I moved to say Balmorhea. No offense to anybody from Balmorhea. So I just haven't kept track. We've been in Dripping Springs about 7 years, I think, and a short stint in Buda.
Moved away to Buda for like a year, right?
Year and a few months, and then just really decided we missed Dripping Springs and came back. And just like being here, like the town, good community, good people.
Yeah.
Obviously. You needed to be close to work too.
Well,
Belterra.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
Soraya is closer to her business. Yes.
Yeah.
So, that's right.
Yeah. Sarasana over there in Belterra, your wife Soraya, and you own that. And how long has that been there now?
We hit 3 years in May, I think. So a good chunk of that, good chunk of the business has been open during COVID. So we hit 3 years in May, and we're back. Back running again after all the chaos that we've been going through.
I'm sure that the lockdowns must have affected your guys' business.
Yes, I think she was closed for 2 months.
Okay.
Obviously, I think. And, we got open back up as soon as we could, but then the employees, trying to get employees and clients back was a slow process because everybody has different thresholds and tolerances for what they're willing to risk.
Well, I'm glad that you guys have that business there. And I know a lot of people come in and you do yoga and massage.
It's the best smelling business in Dripping
that's
Springs.
true.
When you walk in there, just your senses are, it smells so good in there.
Right.
Until they stick those needles in you because they do acupuncture too.
Well, it's right next to the donut place too.
Yeah.
So.
Well, we have a smorgasbord of smells, I guess you would call it.
That's a good word. That's a good word.
But
well, we actually wanted to have you in for a bunch of reasons, but one of the reasons is you work for a large public utility company, which I guess we'll just not mention at this point. But
right, local, city, publicly owned utility.
There
I think
you go.
we all know which one that is.
We'll leave it at that.
Right on.
And you have probably some better insight than most about what happened last year in February here in Texas, especially right here in Austin, where we had Snowmaggedon.
Absolutely. I feel like I had a little PTSD coming into work this morning where I saw that fat, kind of heavy, slow rain, and I was like, is it snow? No.
What is that?
What is that? But February 13th, I think, through the 17th, we all kind of experienced something here in Texas, and especially these new residents to Dripping Springs. This is not a normal. It was not a normal winter.
Well,
no,
and if we'd have
all.
lived in New York or Montana, we would have been able to deal with it, but Texas didn't.
Would have just been another day.
Yeah,
as the Northerners like to remind us when I get talk to them this happens all the time to us.
That's right.
Well, talk to me in August.
Yeah. So what do you do for this large public city utility?
So my job and my group, my immediate group, we forecast load. And
load is
we forecast demand
for electricity
demand from the public, and we schedule power, and we also purchase natural gas and schedule natural gas to meet our power demands. So we have a variety of power plants and fuels. One of them is natural gas, but we have pretty much everything that's out there in our portfolio. So that's what my group does. We have a day ahead forecast, and when that forecast hits midnight, there's another part of the group that takes over and makes adjustments to that forecast as conditions unfold. And so we're there 24/7, 365 days a year.
So tell me about the crisis that we were in, literally minutes from not having power for weeks.
That's what I wanted to ask you about too, because that was what was in the news. Is we were like minutes from this collapse. What does that mean? Right.
So there's a certain threshold for frequency. 60 hertz is what we used here. We use here in the States, and so we have to maintain 60 hertz, and there's a very tight tolerance around maintaining 60 hertz. And with electricity, we can't oversupply and we can't undersupply. They both of those conditions change frequency, and the conditions we're in when it's cold like that, or when we have these extreme temperatures, is low frequency. And so there's certain thresholds and triggers where certain equipment cannot run at a certain low frequency. There's all kind of protections built in, but sometimes it takes the intervention of us people to arrest frequency decay. And so we got into that situation during the storm just based on the extreme temperatures. And yeah, we were close. We were within minutes. The difference between what you're hearing is, we had rolling outages.
Right.
And they weren't necessarily rolling, and we could possibly get into that a little later. And a total system collapse, which would just be a straight up blackout, is, that means, we're just dead in the water, DOA, and you get, everybody without power. And now each section of Texas, like say my company in my area, is trying to build back. We're on an island now. We're our own entity. So we operate under ERCOT, and ERCOT has 90% of the state.
And what's ERCOT short for?
Electrical Reliability Council of Texas.
Okay. Reliability being the
reliability,
the
yes.
key word there.
Right. So
Yeah, we want reliable electricity.
So we're one big island under ERCOT, and if we separate or have an outage or blackout, where everybody's on their own, and you're a little island. And then as you go through the process of rebuilding the grid or the system, everybody rebuilds their island to a certain level, and then they connect to other islands. And that process, we simulate that process every year. Everybody in my group is required to go to a simulation at ERCOT, and everybody from the state that's a participant gets together, and we simulate that process, and we do it pretty solid for 2 days in a controlled environment, kind of like the room we're in now. And we never get the system back up. So just by estimates, because we've never been in that situation here, it would take, my estimate is a couple of weeks. Now, I'd like to preface my statement on that is I'm not, speaking as an official member of the company I work for. I'm just saying from what I see in simulations, it's not easy. Those conditions in the room there that we go through in the drill are perfect conditions. I mean, we have a computer.
Perfect conditions to get things back up and running.
Yes. Now, if you have that collapse or that crash, equipment could get damaged. Why did you have a crash? If it's precipitation, ice, you have to go clear all that. What are the roads like? Can you get to those locations? It turns into a really long event, and people have to physically go out there and take care of some of these things.
And what I read was last year, Winter Storm Uri. Am I saying that correct?
Yes.
We had $196 billion in damages over Texas, over 9 million power outages, 263 confirmed deaths. So with this
I didn't remember it being that bad, but that's bad.
Well, Farmer's Almanac 2022 is predicting another Snowmaggedon.
Have you heard that, Brandon?
That's been circulated a lot at work, and we've had a very mild winter so far. Right. But they're saying, we had a mild winter last year, and then look what happened. That just unfolded. I think you and I were running the Saturday before.
Yeah.
And I mentioned that it was really cold, and I was a little nervous about it. But
I remember that.
But, it wasn't it wasn't that bad at that time. But as the week progressed, the forecast got worse and worse. And then eventually I was seeing 7 degrees. And for anybody that's not from Dripping Springs or Central Texas or Texas, 7 degrees is pretty cold for us.
That's the coldest I've ever been in Texas.
That's another level of freeze for us.
And it didn't get above freezing for 4 straight days, right?
Right. And I think that was a record as well. I mean, we had a similar situation in 2011, and I was actually working that night. And I think that night it was 17 degrees, but we had a lot of the precipitation with it. And so we had a similar event unfold where we had rolling outages, but that lasted a day and a half, or a day, 24 hours by the time we came out of freezing. Where this one, I think we had multiple cold fronts that kept coming through and just reinforcing our situation of cold air and ice and snow.
What I hear from all of that information is you are just as crazy as Steve, and you run in this type of weather, right?
We do.
Normal people sit on their couch.
Actually, I'll tell the story. A couple of weeks ago, maybe a month ago, we were going to run on Wednesday at 5:15, and
in the
I
morning?
rolled. I rolled up to
bed. You're in bed at 5:15 at night.
Yes, but I rolled up to Belterra. and it was thundering and lightning and raining. Do you remember this?
Yes, I remember that.
And Brandon pulled up and we looked at each other through our closed windows in our cars and like, what the hell are we going to do? And I said, Brandon, it won't hurt my feelings if you don't go. And he said, no, it won't hurt my feelings if you don't go. But I think we ran, didn't we?
No, I pulled the trigger and left because of the lightning. I was like, I'm good with the rain, the wind, but it's the lightning I can't dodge.
I think I ran that day.
Y'all
Yeah,
are nuts.
I think
Y'all are
you
nuts.
went out and you kept it going.
Jeez.
But I mean, that Mallett, I talk about him all the time. and his
That
dedication.
Mallett, I tell you, that's what I say.
I'll tell you what,
Mallett.
Brandon, there are many days I'm out running and I'm thinking, you're a freaking idiot. What are you doing out there? But anyway, we
you know
got
what?
off track.
That's running. I think that's runners and jokes.
I think
you
that's
think
true.
we just love it, but there's several times a year, and I'm like, why couldn't I have chosen another hobby?
Yeah, that's
that
true.
Doesn't have me
It
out
is-
here
it's
dying.
very
If
addictive.
I am running, you better run too, because somebody is
there's
chasing
a
me.
bear or
There's
something.
a bear
Yeah.
in Dripping Springs chasing me, and you
Yeah.
better run quickly.
Right.
So Brandon, you were talking about rolling outages. So
Right.
that's not the power went out. That is that the utility company said, let's turn the power off in that area for a while, right?
Right. So that's a different group, and everybody that operates under ERCOT has a plan to arrest or to try and get ahead of these problems. So yeah, there's another group at the utility that actually shuts power off in certain parts of town, and they have the ability to do that. So they have pre-planned what they're going to do. So they'll turn a section of town off for 15 minutes, bring them back, turn somebody else off. And the idea is to decrease the demand.
I think ours would be off for maybe 2 or 3 hours,
Right.
sometimes up to 4, and we would do all we could.
So
not open doors.
So we're on PEC.
Right.
So PEC probably had a different plan than the
PEC has a
organization.
plan as well, but there are certain circuits, like if you live by a hospital,
I was going to
and you're
ask
on
you
That's
that.
what I-
or
that's
the
what I
fire
was gonna
station.
get
you're,
to.
Yeah.
you're not likely going to get turned off because
They don't
of
turn them
course-
off at all.
Yeah, and even the hospitals have contingency plans, but no, they're priority because you don't want to shut power off to somebody who might be on a life support or a
Yeah.
ventilator.
But
So-
their Peloton, that's okay. They can, and their pool equipment, that can go off for just a little while.
Well, I don't own a pool, so it's fine by me, but maybe you pool owners might not like that.
I tell you what, when that power came back on, that was the first thing I did. And our plumber, even though we had busted pipes, we wrapped them, we did everything that we were supposed to. We still had busted pipes, but I tell you what, when that power would come back on, I would go turn that pool equipment. First world problems.
I thought you were going to say you went and jumped on your Peloton and got a
Yeah,
workout
no.
in real quick. As soon as that
No.
power came back,
yeah, I was running.
I was on the Peloton.
Yeah.
Did you guys have any problems at your house with water?
Not water, but we lost power. And from what I was in town for 5 days.
Yeah,
or
you
6
spent
days.
the night
right.
there, didn't you?
Yeah, I had to get updates from my wife, and she said the same thing. Power would come back. She had the fireplace on nonstop because I put the batteries in there.
Oh, yeah.
Prepared her that Saturday, and said, here's this. HEB's a mess. I've already gone. I don't know when I'm coming home. Good luck to you.
Did you sleep in your office or something there?
No. We actually the organization actually had a foresight to get us a hotel room close to the office.
Okay.
And I we were lucky and fortunate, and I think they were close to a fire station. The hotel I was at did not lose power, but it was full of people. And, I wasn't there much. I was there to sleep. And I everybody that was in this industry that was able to get out to worked 20-hour days or spent the night. I had a coworker who slept on the floor of the control center he was at, the closest one he could get to. And he just came and stayed there. And so, we had the organization had the foresight to stock control rooms with food and ahead of time. That Saturday when I stepped out and, we had the ice storm come through, I wasn't expecting till Sunday. The phone started flying, and that's when I left home. And I was not really expecting that until Sunday. But Saturday when we had that first ice storm come through, I packed up and left because I knew it was on. There's no turning back at that point. And even Thursday, even the prior Thursday to that, we started seeing, getting phone calls from our renewables out in West Texas that they were already frozen and they couldn't run.
Renewables like
wind and solar.
Wind and solar.
But I remember 2 wind farms in particular that called and said, we're DOA, we're frozen up already and we can't produce. And that was Thursday. And I was like, well, This is going to be great because it hasn't even, basically the weather hadn't really hit us yet.
Wow.
With all of the new development that's coming into Dripping Springs, if this does happen again, what do you think are precautionary methods?
Are they more prepared now than they were last year? All of the providers.
The blank stare. tells me.
So that's kind of a loaded question, right?
Is it?
Well, I mean, in my opinion, if it gets to be 7 or 6 degrees again, and it stays that way, and let me throw this in there. If we have the precipitation, the ice and the snow, that's what really causes problems. I mean, it can be 20 degrees and sunny,
That's right.
and we're going to be okay. The problem is you start getting ice and the precipitation out there, like just say West Texas, where a lot of our renewables are at, and renewables is a big part of ERCOT now. Over 28,000 megawatts is renewable now.
Wow.
So if you start getting that generation that's taken out by ice, then you're already down to just your thermal generation or your dispatchable. And so is it going to happen if we had that precipitation again? In my opinion, we're going to be in the same situation if it's a multi-day event.
Really?
But I want to say this, people say, well, you're not prepared, or, your house isn't prepared for that temperature. Your heater probably, it's not designed to just open up and start running. And that's what it had to do to keep up with the 7-degree temps or 8 degrees. And when it does that, so is your neighbors and so on and so forth down the road. And then our demand where we work is through the roof. We saw models and demands that we'd never seen before. We weren't even sure our models were correct. But when that opens up and you're just running nonstop, something's going to have to give.
It's going to make these winter Texans rethink coming down here from Michigan. And
they'll say, well, 7 degrees is nothing, but no electricity is something else.
Well, we can hardly drive when it's raining. And what people don't understand also is that our roads are not built for that type of weather. Our roads are built for the heat and
most
tires.
people don't have cars.
Chains.
We don't put snow tires on our cars at this time of year. And
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And we don't have, the highway department is not equipped for a statewide rollout of, throwing ice out. I mean, we do what we can.
We can salt them.
Yeah. But I mean, if you think about this, it sounds really bad, right? Like I'm saying that, in my opinion, I think we'll be not in as bad of a situation, but we could see some of the same things happen. What are you going to do? We plan for our weather, and that is not our weather.
Oh,
I mean,
no.
in the summer, we kick butt.
Yeah.
I mean,
the times we've had a couple years ago, 6300 degree days, and we never lost power.
No.
And I'm sure it's the same thing, right? Everybody's air conditioners running 24/7 on those times.
It's extremes, right? Yeah. And I'll say, like, the difference, and something I've thought about on several occasions. I told you in 2011 we had a similar event, and I worked. That the coldest part of that, when we started to have problems and when the system frequency decayed, it was about 2 a.m. So ERCOT will pull out a public appeal to conserve power, but you're asleep.
Oh, yeah.
I can tell you in the winter that the coldest part of the night is not, 5 o'clock in the afternoon where you would get the conservation appeal.
That's right, yeah.
And maybe if you wanted to, take it upon yourself to.
So would they not send out
Yeah.
an emergency alert then? Has that been discussed? Do you know? Like, I mean, if you are asleep and we get an Amber Alert, something like that, I mean, that's pretty much an emergency. I would
it's
think.
dedication if you're listening to those Amber Alerts.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm
have them turn
going to say, what do you do with that?
Yeah, and then the other part of that, it's 3 o'clock in the morning and it's 20 degrees outside, and they're saying, "Please turn off your heater."
You're getting up at that time to go run.
Well, that's true.
Yeah,
but
Steve, it doesn't matter to Steve. He's already outside.
Yeah.
I actually ran 2 days during Snowmaggedon, so there you go.
Shocking.
Yeah.
Me too. I ran also.
Yeah.
Well, what else were y'all going to do?
That's right. Yeah, man. I know people were complaining about it, and I know there was a lot of people had a lot of headache, and there was a loss of lives, but
I'm sure we're having a birth boom about right now too.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And I also heard that
it was a good little vacation.
It was a good little vacation time, but I think aside from wrapping your pipes and letting your things drip.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Well, they were talking about stocking up on PVC pipe and hose bibs and things like that, because that was hard to come by. I don't know if you went into Home Depot. Our handyman, John Legg, we have, ooh, boy, we kept him busy.
Yeah, he went and bought like $1,000 worth of PVC fittings at Home Depot like a couple days before.
So he's the reason.
Well, but he was out fixing people's stuff.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
Awesome.
Yeah.
We had a property we were getting ready to list over in Belterra, and there was a tenant in there, and she emailed me a video of the side wall of the garage with water going
Pouring
like
out.
4 feet, like a stream going. She's like, "Is this normal?" I'm like, "No, it's not normal." And John Legg went over there and he did a patchwork job on it, but
He went to our
stopped
house.
the water.
Gary scene.
Both
to
of
see that in your
both of
garage.
our hose bibs froze up. So when it was starting to thaw, I just started seeing the snow and the ice thawing, and I just was seeing a little bit more water than I should have at the side of my house. And I was like, this doesn't look normal. And then I was scooping away, and it's coming out of the brick. And I was like, oh no. And so my first call was to John, and he was over there within 30 minutes. Took care of it.
He was turning and burning, man. He probably worked on 20 houses a day. He was just going.
I'm going to get his number because
That's
he
right.
sounds great.
He's a
and
great
I
guy
could use
too.
somebody like
He's
that.
a very
personally.
very good guy.
So number one, get your PVC pipe, wrap your pipes, stock up on food, and have a handyman on.
Yeah.
Have somebody
Well,
willing to come out in
trust-
that weather, right?
And that's what I was saying. I think if we have another Snowmageddon, regardless of what the utility providers do, I think people are going to be more prepared, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think that you won't. Yeah, I mean, by nature, we're gonna make a run to the grocery store. Hopefully, it's different from COVID, and we don't buy up all the toilet paper because I don't really know, but whatever. No, I mean,
You got to buy the stuff for borracho beans because you can make it on. That's what we did. We just made borracho beans and ate borracho beans for days. You don't know what borracho beans are.
I imagine there was probably a run on liquor.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah.
I'm gonna say that I probably did drink a bottle or two of champagne during Snowmageddon.
I bet you that's why she didn't get on the Peloton. Because
That's probably true.
And that I don't own one.
That and the fact that she doesn't own one.
okay.
Yeah. Well, we didn't actually ask you, how did you get into this business in the first place?
Wow, I didn't come about it normally. So,
Are you in the witness protection program?
Yes,
Is this what
yes,
you
I am.
do?
So, and I wasn't prepared to answer witness protection program questions.
Do we need to cut and move on to something
Yes.
else? Yeah.
No, my wife and I are from the Gulf Coast, and down there here on the Texas coast, petrochemical industry is really big.
Okay.
You've got really large companies, refineries. And so if you stay in your hometown down there, you're likely to end up in one of the local plants.
Oh, yeah.
And I went to college in Waco, technical college, TSTC.
That's where my husband went.
Fantastic investment, best investment of my
Really?
life. And I got into electronic instrumentation. I worked down there in the plants, for I think 13 to 15 years. I don't even remember anymore. I'm pretty bad with numbers today, obviously, but I just decided one day I didn't want to be down there anymore.
Where
And,
were you exactly?
I was outside of Port Lavaca, Texas.
Oh, I'm from Corpus Christi.
Oh,
I went-
really?
went to high school.
Yeah,
Neighbors.
which high school did you go to?
Carroll.
Corpus Christi Carroll.
Yeah.
I ran cross country. We ran against Corpus
Oh,
Christi
yeah?
Carroll. Beat y'all a few times. Thank you.
Steve's wife went to Carroll as well.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm a
Holly
sand
went to
crab.
Calhoun.
Calhoun High School.
Yeah,
Don't.
yeah, it's-
I see the
Sand crab,
looks.
was that your?
That's our mascot.
That was your mascot.
They were itchy.
Sand-
Their dance was
not-
itching.
It was a different kind of crabs.
Okay.
We actually hang out on the beach. These are not the doctor's office crabs that you're.
So when did you get up here to Austin?
2006, I think. Yeah, I just left, and my wife was at grad school at the time, and I asked her, asked her if I moved, if she would come with me. She said, sure, after I finished grad school. Ended up in San Antonio for 10 months. Wasn't happening there. Came to Kyle. We thought my wife had a job. I quit my job there, and I said, well, I'm pretty sure I could find work in Austin. Long story short, ended up at the utility there, working at one of their power plants, and then heard about this job that I'm in now, forecasting and scheduling and dispatching, and wound up in here after grad school myself. in this position and kind of, here we are talking about Snowmaggedon.
Yeah.
My knowledge of power plants is Homer Simpson. And,
Yeah. That's exactly what it's like.
That's my.
That's exactly what it's like. Except for that, the guys don't actually,
There's no donuts involved.
There's no. Oh wait.
There may be donuts involved.
There's lots of donuts, lots of tacos, and lots of coffee in the power plant.
That's funny when you said.
Are you hiring?
Yeah.
I actually have an opening.
Yeah. When you said management knew enough to bring in food, I was thinking like Krispy Kreme donuts, and they probably didn't feed you very well.
They ran the gamut. They try. You don't know who your audience is.
Know, yeah.
It was somebody that doesn't work in my group, and I have to commend them for being as prepared and jumping up as they did. We were all driving on icy roads that day, trying to get everybody set up because we knew that this was just the beginning. And so we ate well. Sometimes you ate the same thing twice.
I'm just telling you, Brandon, that if ever there's a situation where I'm stuck in this office with Steve Mallett and he has brought the food, please. I don't care who you have to send out.
Save her.
You need to come because I cannot survive off rice crackers and sparkling water. I'm going to need some
Kit Kats
and cheese. I'm going to need some cheese.
I will always have hot sauce at my house.
Okay.
And I will bring it here to put on your rice cakes.
Thank you.
Let's talk about something really important now that we've covered Snowmaggedon. I want to talk about your new Ducati.
Oh yeah.
Have you been riding it?
Yes, I have.
Michelle's looking at me like, what is that? Have you been riding it?
Yes, I have. I got a Scrambler, an 800, but I came off of an Indian Chief Dark Horse, which was an 1800
cc.
And then I bought that Vespa to kind of tool around the neighborhood, which is 300.
Was fun. You let
I
me
got
ride
some
that.
Vince Makuto or Komodo slides too. They were. That's about as knowledge as I am of this conversation.
That's
right?
all right.
I have no idea who that is.
Yes.
Yeah, me neither.
So does he ride?
Not in those. Yeah, but that's you and I have that in common. You have a love for motorcycles. You've had probably five or six.
Yes.
You bought the Moto Guzzi, right?
Had a Moto Guzzi. Had two Indians.
Yeah.
A Triumph, Bonneville.
The
a Harley,
nice.
An 883,
Oh, wow. Yeah,
I don't
another
think I ever
800.
saw that.
No,
Yeah.
I think that was my second bike. So I've kind of went from really small bikes all the way up to big cruisers, and now I've kind of dialed back on this Ducati. It's an 800. It's a lot of fun. It's super
Is it
torquey.
scary riding around here? Do you remember? I think it was like year before last, where 290 they had the ridges on the road. Steve and I had often talked about how dangerous that was.
Where they put the grooves in it. That was
Your
sketchy.
tire seems to get in there and want to go where the groove goes.
Yeah.
Where do you like to ride?
To be honest, I like to just ride, here in the hill country locally. It's very easy for us to get out within 4 or 5 minutes and find hill country. So on a Sunday, I'll just head out, get on my bike and head out by myself, and Creek Road, head out towards Blanco, Sister Dale out that direction, and come
beautiful.
make a big loop, Hamilton Pool Road.
I find that it's the traffic has gotten a little bit more dangerous. Do you get worried being on a bike and people not paying attention? I know that there was
ride it to work sometimes.
Well, there was an
don't you?
accident right in front of Dreamland. It was a motorcycle fatality.
Yeah, I commute a few days. I'm not going to commute as much on this bike, but no, y'all are nuts. Anybody listening that doesn't ride a motorcycle, y'all are crazy. I see what y'all do because I have to watch for y'all, and eating
It's
and
true.
putting on makeup and turning
Texting
around yelling at your
and,
kids in the back
yeah.
seat is, I don't know if that's legal.
It is.
It's legal to
I
yell at your
could
kids in the back
drive,
seat.
take a shoe off, and smack one of them in the back seat at the same time. But
Well, I guess it's legal if you could stay in your lane.
that's right.
Yeah,
Hey,
which
I'm
they
from the
don't.
Valley. Everything is legal there.
Uh-oh,
So
look
yeah.
out. We got
It's
somebody
El
from the Valle.
It's El Valle. Güerita Barbie.
Oh, that's right. We
Yeah.
need the Barbie. Wow.
That was a blast from the
Blanca.
past. Yeah.
No, it's crazy. You know, when you ride, Steve, you have to, I treat everybody, and Steve, maybe you do too. I treat everybody like they're about to hit me.
That's what I do too.
Yeah.
And as long as you're doing that, you're safe. But that's what you got to do. And it's not that people are bad drivers. It's that we're all we have a lot of devices now that we didn't used to have. You have phones,
It's true.
text messaging, and now it's displayed on your console. And we're just busy by nature. I mean, everybody slips up. Me as a car driver have drifted. I get it.
You're just driving. You've ever like just driven like a couple of miles, and you're like, "How did I get here?" Like you're just
'cause
muscle memory.
Your brain's going.
Yeah, that's really scary in the morning.
Yeah.
When I
That's
don't
every
remember
morning
passing.
when I pull in. I'm like, "How did I get here?"
What happened? I hope nobody's dead.
I want to get a ride on that Ducati one day. I think that
most definitely. Come on
sounds
down.
like an awesome bike. And I think we're going to try and run. Well, maybe not tomorrow, but we're going to try and run in the next couple of days. So
Yes, that'd be good.
yeah,
That'd be fantastic. I always love running with Steve in the morning, even though it's early. He's very much a stickler for his time in the morning.
Oh, really?
Well, he's got. What am I telling you?
I sent him a text the other day. It was like this little funny meme, and it says, "Boss, you really should have been here at 8 a.m." And it says, "Me, why? What happened at 8 a.m.?"
Well, Brandon, man, thanks for coming in. You shared a
you.
bunch of good information with folks, and I think it'll be helpful. And hopefully, if we have another Snowmageddon, it won't be as bad as we had last year.
Well, let's hope. I'd like to sleep at home.
Yeah, no
Absolutely.
kidding. Yeah, 5 days in a hotel is never fun. But-
Right.
All right, man. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you all. Good to see you all.
Take care.
Bye.
This show is brought to you in part by the Mallett Integrity Team, serving Dripping Springs, Austin, and the surrounding areas of Central Texas since 2004. When you need the best real estate advice and service, give them a call at 512-829-2062 or email them at mallettintegrityteam.com.
Thanks for listening. Please email us any feedback or suggestions that you have at malletandmichelle.com. Listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Stitcher, and please follow us and leave a review. You can follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Mallett and Michelle. And as always, thank you for listening.